Listen to the forest that grows rather than the tree that falls.
Welcome to Agency for Change, a podcast from KidGlov that brings you the stories of change makers who are actively working to improve our communities. In every episode, we'll meet with people who are making a lasting impact in the places we call home.
Hello, everyone. This is Lisa Bowen, Vice President Managing Director at KidGlov. Welcome to another episode of the Agency for Change podcast. Today, we're honored to have Tyler Irvine, the Executive Director of Fontenelle Forest, join us. With a mission to provide a sanctuary for people to connect with the natural world, Fontenelle Forest has been instrumental in preserving over 2,100 acres of forests, prairies, and wetlands along the Missouri River. Today, we'll explore Tyler's journey, Fontenelle Forest's impactful initiatives, and dive into the broader conversation about environmental stewardship and community engagement. Tyler, I'm eager to talk with you today and learn more about the great impact you're making.
Thanks so much, Lisa. It's great to be here. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Awesome. Well, let's dive right into the questions, Tyler. Can you start by just giving us an overview of Fontenelle Forest and its mission?
Yeah, so we were founded in 1913. There were some visionaries at that time who saw with the construction of Bellevue that the forests right here along the Missouri were at risk of being cut, and at the cost of forward progress for all the construction that was happening at that time. And those visionaries really saw a plan ahead, and it stays true today. So over the years, things have certainly developed and changed, and I'm happy to go into some of my thoughts on how things have evolved over time. But currently, we manage 2,100 acres here, primarily in Bellevue, but also up at Neil Woods, which is northern Douglas County, southern Washington County. 24 miles of trail. Historically, we've been a place for folks to come and hike and have some respite from the urban jungle. And that remains true today. Many of our members are hikers. Many of our members are birders. We are a premier birding location. As someone who is not a birder myself, before I came to this work at Fontenelle, I've caught the bug. It's wonderful. It's so much fun. That said, beyond our hiking, we do outdoor education. So we have hired naturalists, qualified naturalists who do both public as well as school-based programming, and they do a fantastic job. Our mission is to inspire current and future generations to care for the natural world. That's really the heart of the forest. And it's the reason why we really do exist in our current form today with a nature center. And then our biggest piece and what underlies all that we do is our conservation efforts. So conservation has evolved over the years. Originally, the conservation ideas were kind of like, leave it alone and just let it be. With our landscape, that is actually not the modern understanding of the right way to approach conservation. So we do active management, brush piling, invasive species removal, and really our cornerstone in our active management is prescribed burn, which I can go into the pieces of how that's important in our landscape if you like.
Great. I've learned a lot of new things already in the first question, Tyler. So I appreciate you sharing that. The urban jungle is definitely something that a lot of people want to escape from time to time. So I love that you use that as a reference for one of the many reasons why people visit the forest. So Tyler, can you tell us a little bit about the road that led you personally to Fontenelle Forest? Looking at your resume, you seem to have a special place in your heart for nonprofits. And, is the love for nature also in your blood?
Thanks for this question. This is a very nice question. When I was growing up as a kid, my mom was a very active volunteer. And I was her little buddy, the youngest of my siblings, and I just went along and did stuff with my mom, and she talks so highly of those days still today, and she really exposed me to giving back. And from a very early age, I just felt that I believe that the world could be a better place. And that belief has carried me through my career, which really started with nonprofits back in 2007, 2008, when I started as a refugee resettlement specialist with Lutheran Family Services, and has since just carried on through. So I ran a small nonprofit out in Western Nebraska for 5 years. We loved Scotts Bluff. We loved everything about what we were doing, but my wife and I's family is here. And as many folks know and understand, those roots are deep. And so I had an opportunity that was an incredible opportunity to come back home and work for the Sherwood Foundation. And with them, I was able to invest across the state at a scale that truly I can't even comprehend. The ripple effects of what the Sherwood Foundation does in Omaha, but across the state it's absolutely awesome. And I, was able to still be out there in greater Nebraska. I love rural communities. I love the people and how things work. And that was lovely. But there was this gnawing thing inside of me where it was like, I like to be in the arena. I like to have challenges that I can give myself to and work through and give my energy towards. And in philanthropy, there's a bit of a feeling of sometimes you're on the sidelines and you're a cheerleader and you believe in folks, but at the end of the day, you're tasking other people to get this stuff done. I, as a doer, felt while my time at Sherwood was very meaningful, there was a bit of a part of me that didn't feel quite fulfilled because I couldn't give myself personally to a place and see tangible progress and improvements. And so I sat with that feeling and I hiked Neil Woods. I was hiking Neil Woods for about 6 months to a year of like, hey, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? I've loved nature my whole life. Camping, hiking, fishing, everything about it. Nature has been my church for at least since early high school. And then I realized, so I'm out here at Neil Woods walking around like, what do I want to do? I was like, what about Fontenelle Forest?
I can make a
And
living out of this, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
like what if I thought about running Fontenelle Forest? And the pieces started to come together. And I was just fortunate with timing and everything that the outgoing executive director was leaving. There would be an opening, and I just chose to throw my hat in the ring and see what would happen. And here I am. So
Well,
I'm very, very grateful for everything and to be here today.
that's an amazing story. What a great response. I did not anticipate that, this was all part of your plan.
I didn't know it either. When I was in that deliberative state of kind of thinking of leaving philanthropy and going back into running nonprofits, there was a point where I was sitting at the dinner table with my wife and I said, what about Fontenelle Forest? It was like inside of me. And then it was like a year later where I was like, no, actually, what about Fontenelle Forest? So there was a seed there, and it really it encompasses my whole personality, my spiritual relationship to the land, my skill set. It's a perfect fit for me.
Well, your passion for your work is evident. So it's always wonderful to see somebody in the right position and doing the right thing for the right reasons. And you could tell you're that person.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Awesome. So can you tell us a little bit about, like, I grew up in Bellevue, so I know all about Fontenelle Forest, but I know it as a place to hike. Can you tell us a little bit more about the conservation efforts happening today?
Yeah, so we have a dedicated conservation team. We have about six dedicated biologists and conservation managers who oversee all of our 2,100 acres. Fontenelle Forest is in a transition ecosystem. So you have the eastern deciduous forest, which comes out of kind of the, what do you call it? The center location is really Tennessee, Kentucky, but that forest spreads and, Missouri has it, and it comes right up to the edge of Fontenelle Forest. Then on the backside, you now enter into the plains, which Nebraska is known for. Interestingly enough, Scotts Bluff on the other end of the state is a transition ecosystem from the plains to the Rocky Mountains. And so the species intermingle. You get eastern and western bluebirds, for example, commingling. So when I talk about transition ecosystems, you get a little bit of both. Now, in the plains, fire is a part of how this ecosystem continues to regenerate. Unfortunately, we had the big fires in the central part of the state. Down in Texas, they've had those fires. That is a part of how Nebraska as a whole, but plains in general, do continue to regenerate and thrive. So we've got this forest that has these ridge tops. And when I talk about a transition ecosystem, that ridge top is more prairie-like. It's open, the canopy opens up, and we have bur oaks. And bur oaks are like the sentinel tree species. So they're the species that goes forth into new areas. They're the first one, and they even in their leaves, for example, they have an oil that is flammable. They're fire resistant, fire tolerant. It helps them keep their competition away. They need that open canopy to survive and thrive. So on our ridge tops, having that open canopy is critical. And then we have our hollows, which has a whole nother set of tree species that thrive on shade and just the general, what folks think of as a forest. Our hollows you might walk through and feel like you're in Appalachia, for example. It's unlike really anything else in Nebraska. So it's very unique, and we also have wetlands properties. So we've got these wetlands, this deciduous forest, and this oak savanna. And that oak savanna is what really relies on that fire to thrive. So go back 100 years, 1913, trees are being cut. They want to protect this forest. The dominant idea at that time was, set it and forget it, leave it be. This is God's creation. Man shouldn't interfere in it. And that went on for about 50, 60 years, maybe even a little bit more. And what happened then, the fire went away. And shade-tolerant species started to compete with the oaks on our ridge tops, and then the oaks stopped doing as well. So the shade trees kind of come up, and they start taking up that canopy space that the bur oak thrives on. And so our ridge tops became more forested in the sense of that canopy coverage was thicker. And as conservation grew to understand actually active management, that is the key. We are stewards of the land. We work in tandem with the land to ensure that it is healthy and thriving. So it's been now in the 1980s, we had a legendary gentleman here named Gary Garabrandt, who was our conservation guru. And he really brought in now this modern understanding of conservation. And it continues to this day now where we have a full staff. We actually just burned Neil Woods, 600 acres 2 weeks ago, right before these burn bans went into effect. Folks around here know it's been so dry. And so from that aspect too, we don't typically think about it this way, but there is a public safety element to it of we've burned out that dry fuel that if a wildfire was to crop up, we've helped mitigate some of the intensity of that by doing these controlled burns where everything is generally predictable. We have perimeters set and things are under control. And our team is so professional about this. We, work very closely with fire departments and neighbors around the burns themselves. There's a lot that goes into it. But that really is kind of our keystone piece. And then throughout the year, we're continually doing invasive species removal, species that have come in and start to take over the native species in our area. And then our brush cutting is to help also facilitate fire so that there is, as you know, if you tried to build a fire and you put too many logs on that fire, it snuffs it out. So we create the space for the fire to effectively move through by brush cutting and piling. And so if you come and you hike our trails and you see brush piles in different spots, that's intentional. And then when we go through and burn, those piles will then, burn up and all of those nutrients come back to the land.
Wow, what our listeners won't know is that you are just speaking off the cuff and are literally this knowledgeable. So I'm super impressed, Tyler.
And this is not my background, truly. I have professionals who have taught me this. So this is because of the level of expertise of my staff. I'm more of a CEO type of executive director where I oversee the bigger picture and I put people and delegate people who have that expertise. And our director of operations is such a pro at this that I've been so lucky to be a part of it. There's this part of me that I wishes that was kind of my job, but
Yeah.
I know where my strengths are and what I can give to the organization. And I'm happy to be in more of a administrative role because I do feel very passionate about what we are doing. And I got the opportunity to go out on one of our prescribed burns. I can't tell you, Lisa, that how magical that experience is when you're out in the land and there's fire and smoke all around and the sun is coming down through these trees. It is very much a spiritual experience. You feel the land breathing and it is alive in a way that I've never really experienced before. And just the sun coming through the smoke and the trees. It's always beautiful here, no matter what. That dappled sunlight that comes through our canopy is so healing. But when the fire was going on, it was like on a whole nother level. So I get very excited about it, and I'm very supportive of our conservation efforts, just from my personal experience with how well they do it and how neat it really is.
So cool. And I'm sure that knowledge and your passion for the work just is making you such a better leader. So I think that's great.
Well, thank you.
One thing I wanted to ask you, so not everybody is as engaged as nature as you are and, knowledgeable about it. What things do you do at Fontenelle Forest to engage the community in your efforts?
Yeah, so we have a variety of public programming, and that we continue to evolve. As all of us had COVID. COVID was there was sort of a before and after. Previously, pre-COVID days, we had a ton of school groups coming through, tons of kids. And with our qualified naturalists, doing really kind of high level overview of everything in nature. So to me, it's important that we provide that generalist understanding of nature instead of very specialty focused. Like now there's folks who specialize in frogs, or folks who specialize in snakes, or folks who specialize in raptors. Our team is more of a generalist team who can speak to how all of these elements work together in nature to help folks come to relearn, because I do believe we possess this in our DNA, but come to relearn how the forces of nature actually work and be able to read signs around you in nature that, you know, I think are a part of our heritage as human beings. We grew up in these kinds of environments, we evolved in them. But as we've moved to the city, some of that knowledge has been lost. And so it's rekindling that inherent knowledge within us to be able to read and understand the world around us. Then with that, we have raptors. We have 26 birds of prey on our property that are all non-releasable birds that, you know, we have falcons, hawks, eagles, owls. Those birds bring in a ton of folks. Our raptor education programming is very, very popular, and we take calls from across the state, and our team is happy to jump in the car and bring a few birds and go up to schools in St. Paul, Nebraska, you know, where West Point, Nebraska. We're out there trying to provide our unique and rich, engaged experience for folks who might not be able to make the trip to us. And then kind of one of our current fun little program evolution things. So as COVID, you know, really impacted the level of school groups that have come in, we've switched over to more of a public program. So anybody can come, you know, we give discounts to our members. And a lot of those programmings are like birding 101, trails less traveled, full moon hikes. So we'll have a program when we have a full moon. The forest closes at sunset. So we offer this program for folks to come in at night. And those are insanely popular. The forest is wild at night. Anybody who's been in the woods at night knows it's a whole nother game. And so that's something we love doing. Equinox celebrations, marking seasons, those are other pieces that we do. And lastly, kind of one of our current areas that we're looking more into is that health and wellness. So bringing yoga to the forest, Tai Chi to the forest. We had Reiki at the forest. One of our naturalists is a qualified Reiki practitioner, and she ran a fantastic program that was so well received around this health and wellness. And that's an area that I feel passionate about because of all my personal experience being in the woods and how healing it is. In conversations with many folks, the forest has been a place of healing. And in society today, we are more stressed than seems like ever. You know, we're locked into these devices here. It's amazing that you and I are able to talk like this through the screen, but it does have an impact on our well-being and we sit in this place where society feels more divided and politics get put into everything. Everything is politicized. Here we are the woods, and let's all set those things aside and come together around our shared love of this place. And yeah, you want to talk climate change? Let's talk about it because it is happening here. You know, all of us have experienced it. And some of the politics does start to come in, but I really try and separate that stuff out because truly our common ground is the love of the outdoors and the healing that this place can provide for our society. That is the mission impact piece that why I believe Fontenelle Forest is more important now than ever before. Our kids need it, all of us, we all need to reconnect to this creation that we find ourselves in. And instead of, oh, let's take a week trip out to Colorado and go see these awesome mountains. Well, you can come down here and hike for 4 hours and get lost and go back home It doesn't have to be a whole, hey, we got to go find this somewhere else. We are here. We're
Local.
here for it. And it's right in your backyard.
Yes. So the more you talk about how important the work is that you're doing at Fontenelle Forest, the bigger your job gets, right? What are some of the challenges that come along with leading an organization that has such a significant impact on the community?
You know, there are many. It really, at the end of the day, there can be competing interests. So from a recreation aspect, wanting to keep trails open and available. Well, from a conservation aspect, we're doing a prescribed burn. We have to close down trails to do so for folks' safety. Folks who are here to come and hike might be upset by that, and so there's tension in between. And sometimes you just have to get everybody back to the same page of why we're doing what we do and help folks to see the bigger picture outside of their specific interest in engaging with the forest, because we have a variety of stakeholders. We have our birding population. They want things a certain way. We have our outdoor educators. They want things a certain way. We have our conservation team. They might say, I wish nobody was here, and they don't, mind you. But I think working through the variety of interests,
Yeah.
compromising, as folks know in this world, politics it's a lot of compromise. It's a give and take, so long as the mission is never sacrificed. And I think that's my is to ensure that everything we do is aligned with our mission. And if it's not, we have a problem that we need to talk about or reassess potentially our mission or whatever it is that's running up against it. And then, we have 2,100 acres that we manage. We have a nature center. We have 37 staff. Making payroll is always, we're in a great financial position, but those are certainly things that, we want to make sure we can continue to sustain our team, our nature center, our, the acres that we restore, because it costs money for all of that. And how do we build a model that is balanced in terms of grant revenue, earned revenue? One of the things that made me so excited about the force is we are blessed to have a membership-based model so that we are able to have significant earned revenue that comes in. And we have folks who they come in and they think maybe we're a state park or something. They're like, why are you charging this money? We are not a state park. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization that receives no state tax assistance. So we rely on our membership to fund our conservation work, for example. That is the why of it. And sometimes folks will come in and be like, well, it's awfully expensive to breathe the air here. Huh. And it's like, we take that step back and say, this is what it takes to breathe that air. And, it's a process for
Yeah.
folks. And again, people have their own experience, and that's very valid. When you sit in a seat like mine, you see the variety of experiences, and so those aren't always in total agreement with one another, and you have to work to communicate the why and what we are offering, as it relates to a question like, well, it's awfully expensive to breathe your air, what we are providing for our members in terms of the value. We have the programming aspects, we have the unparalleled nature that we provide that's maintained to an excellent quality. And we have exhibits. We have an art exhibit that's on our trading post history. I could go on and on, Lisa, about the history of this place. We have 74 Earth Lodge sites within Fontenelle's property, and those date back to 1200 to 1400. So there's significant archaeological importance to our area. From a species perspective, we get birds that no one else gets. It's why we are a premier national birding location. So again, these are the things that your membership helps us continue to sustain.
Yes, I agree. So you perfectly led into my next question, which is about membership. I know one of your goals is to grow your membership in order to support your efforts. Can you talk a little bit about what a membership might cost and what that includes? You mentioned some of those things, but what are the benefits?
Yeah, so our membership for a family, and this is good for a whole year, is $80. Then we have some different tiers. So we have like a membership plus one where you can bring in someone with you every time. That's $70 a year. And then we have an individual membership, which is $55 a year. And we just rolled out price increases this past January. We hadn't done that for the previous 6 years, really trying to get more in line with our peers and value ourselves accordingly. Historically, we've sort of undersold, I think, what we can actually provide. During COVID, we were blessed being a nature center with ample outdoor opportunities. We actually experienced a growth in membership during that time. So part of what we're trying, and then it since has kind of dropped back down as folks have gone back into, their more regular life, whatever that might mean these days. And so for us, it's re-engaging folks who have potentially lapsed as memberships. You, Lisa, as you know, being a Bellevue native, so many folks have history here. Either they camped here as a kid or they sent their kids here for camp. And then as life goes on, folks kind of, kids grow up or whatever, all the things happen. Some of those folks just kind of forget or stop coming down. And so it's re-engaging with folks across our lifespan that, hey, we are still here. We value the membership that, our community gives to us graciously. With that value, we have an early childhood space in our basement. So for families to bring their kids in, come downstairs and just free roam, explore, it's fantastic. Then we have our art gallery space, which currently houses our trading post exhibit. So for folks who are interested in the history of Bellevue, Sarpy County, Fontenelle Forest, that's our current exhibit. And we'll, over time, we'll put in new stuff there. And then something we're extremely excited about coming here this year will be our Acorn Acres, which is a half-acre outdoor playscape that will have a very cool custom two-story tree house and a variety of interactive ways for folks who are maybe on the newer side to the outdoors to get familiar with how it is to explore. And we'll be thoughtful with our signage so that it feels like a trail, again, it comes back to, we want to increase people's confidence in being able to go out and explore and discover new things and find their way. So this whole area is designed with that in mind, and that's going to be a huge draw for us. We have a mile-long boardwalk, for folks who have accessibility issues or kids. We got a mile-long boardwalk where you can view all these amazing birds. I was talking with a guy this morning who was walking the boardwalk, and he went a little bit further down some other trails. He saw 35 deer today, turkeys, coyotes.
Wow.
So the wildlife, it's in an accessible way. And then it leads you out over to overlook the Missouri River. You see downtown Omaha, you see the Desert Dome and Henry Dorley Zoo. It's just it's a reminder of where we are in the community that exists along this Missouri River corridor. And then, with your membership, you get access to these programs at reduced prices. access to discounts in our gift shop. Our gift shop does amazing. Plus just the community, being a part of a place that is really actively conserving precious land. We feel that that is an important thing. But say if you're just a hiker, we have the best hiking around. Yes, you can go over to Hitchcock Nature Center north of Crescent, Iowa. That's a longer drive. They've got good hiking too. I'm not going to say they don't, but we have more of it right here. And so I think that there's something for everybody here, no matter the age, no matter the experience level. And the most meaningful aspect to me at the end of the day are the people in the relationships. We have folks who come here and walk that boardwalk every single day. I've had folks come and tell me I'm alive because of Fontenelle Forest. I believe it because it's that connection and physical activity and wellness of being outdoors that sustains us through dark times in our lives, and we all have those. And for folks who are needing to find some comfort and healing in their lives, I believe the forest is here for you.
Wow, I think your rates are very reasonable, and I'd gladly pay that much to breathe your air and see your beautiful land. So I think you just got yourself a new member.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, let me know when you come down. We'll take a
I
walk.
will. I will. So, what other ways can people support your efforts in addition to becoming a member? Do you rely heavily on volunteers? I know donations. You're a nonprofit. What ways can people help?
Volunteer. So we've got a fantastic professional staff, but we rely on volunteers to scale our impact. So we have volunteers in land stewardship. Those are conservation efforts. We have a Tuesday and Thursday team. That's every Tuesday and Thursday. So for those folks who maybe are, recently retired or have some more time to give, you get to get dirty with our team and actually be, from my seat, you're unpaid staff, and you have all those same rights and responsibilities accordingly. Then we have our monthly Saturday work days. So for folks who just, want to be able to have a consistent engagement, but maybe don't have, if you work a 9 to 5 every, Monday through Friday or whatever, we have a Saturday morning option once a month. Now we're also in the process of revamping our whole volunteer effort. So if that is something that you are interested in, we are going to have some new things rolling out on our website where you'll see all of our volunteer opportunities, because there are many. We have them in the education space. We have them in the Raptor space. We have them in terms of special events, we event coordination, those kinds of things that, like, I know that there's event planners out there in the world who are the precious folks that we all need. And those folks who have those kinds of skill sets are absolutely, we love that and we need that. We appreciate those kinds of help. And then we have some even back-end volunteers. So for folks who just want to, maybe they have some mobility issues or something along those lines, or they can't necessarily meet the physical requirements of some of the work that we do, we'll have them help us, clean out our databases, do some mailers, some of the office work. And we have dedicated folks who show up and do that monthly with us as well. And that's a huge lift for us, because sometimes those are the things for us who are kind of at our max capacity. It would be great if we could just do this. We have a lot of those things on our desk that if we found the right volunteer, now we could actually we can start just rolling and feeling really, really good about all of our progress. So we have over 300 active volunteers on an annual basis, just to give you an idea of the scale that volunteers are our lifeblood, and they're the ones who champion us out in the community. And one of the most meaningful days I've had here was a volunteer appreciation breakfast, where I got to sit back and see staff who work with volunteers on a regular basis prepare breakfast for them, give them gifts, and see the volunteers shower that love right back on the staff and say, hey, you're the reason why we keep showing up here. That to me is what it's all about.
That's amazing. So you mentioned your website. Is that the best way for our listeners who want to learn more about you to reach out?
Yes.
Can you tell us where your website, what your URL
Yeah,
is?
fontenelleforest.org, I think. Are we .org?
Should be.
Lisa, I've only been here 5 months. Yeah, we are
You would
.org.
you would not know that by listening to you today, Tyler.
Yep, fontenelleforest.org. And
Perfect.
then I just want to plug something on that website. You'll see on the top bar nature search. This is a volunteer effort from some of our long-standing folks where we now have just rolled out a new nature search platform where it's kind of like a crowdsource. You take pictures of what you see here at the forest, and now we've got the whole taxonomy of plants, animals, fungi, all of that is there with pictures from folks who upload them and locations for other folks if they want to go try and find things. So that's a cool new thing that I just wanted to plug
Yeah,
real quick.
it's very cool. Very cool. Well, Tyler, we love quotes here at KidGlov, and I'm sure you have a few that inspire you in your daily routine. Do you have any favorite quotes you can share with us today?
I have many. I guess one that it doesn't necessarily provide answers, but provokes thinking. And it dovetails nicely into our conversation today is listen to the forest that grows rather than the tree that falls.
I love that. Love that. So, Tyler, as we wrap up here today, you've shared so much wonderful information. What's the one thing you would want our listeners to remember about Fontenelle Forest as we close our conversation today?
Again, if you are in a place where you feel you need some comfort and healing in your life, we welcome you here. The sunlight through the trees will provide many blessings for you. And so if you feel trapped, if you feel like the world is too technological, or if you feel like you just need space to think and breathe and move, we are here and we welcome everyone.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today and all of your knowledge and giving us a sneak peek at all of the great things that Fontenelle Forest does.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much. And thanks to everybody who's listened to me ramble a little bit today.
Thank you, Tyler.
We hope you enjoyed today's Agency for Change podcast. To hear all our interviews with those who are making a positive change in our communities, or to nominate a changemaker you'd love to hear from, visit KidGlov.com at KidGlov.com to get in touch. As always, if you like what you've heard today, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and share. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.